Hey guys, so we have been talking about soil. We've talked about what soil is and that it's the loose material that covers all of Earth's lands, what you plant plants in, and what's underneath the ground that you're walking on every day. We've also talked about the four main materials that make up soil, which are rocks, little minerals, or big rocks, all made out of minerals that were never alive. They were just created when God created the world. We talked about humus, which is the dead plants and animals that have decayed and add nutrients to the soil, which is what plants and animals need to survive. We've talked about air, which is in between the minerals and the particles in soil, in between the little spaces, the open spaces, as well as water, which is in between the spaces, just like air is. We've also talked about the different types of soil being sand, silt, humus, loam, and clay. Remember, we talked about sand has big grains, the water drains through it. Silt is a little bit softer, it's velvety, the water doesn't drain through very well. The humus we talked about are those decayed plants and animals. It has a lot of nutrients. Loam has all of those nutrients together because it is a combination of sand, silt, clay, and humus all together. So plants grow really, really well in this. This is what you're going to find most plants growing in. And clay is stickier when it gets wet and the water doesn't drain very well through it. So now we are going to talk about what the different layers of soil are, what those main layers are. Now, the older you get in school, they're going to teach you more specific layers, but we're just going to talk about the four main layers. Those layers are topsoil on the tippy top. You see that grass up there? That's the tippy top of the ground. That's what you're going to walk on. That's the topsoil. A good way to remember that, top is on the top. Then we have subsoil. Subsoil is just a little bit below the surface. I think of like a submarine goes below the surface of the water. The subsoil is a little bit below. Then we have large layers of rock. So if you look down there, you're going to find big rocks. Do you guys see those rocks that you can see in this picture? Once you get down, you start to find rocks down there. So if you were going to take your shovel and start digging into the soil, eventually you're going to hit something. Now, maybe a treasure chest. If you're a pirate, you're going to be very happy, but it's probably going to be some rocks down there. And then at the very, very bottom, you're going to find the bedrock. That is just solid rock that you're going to find. So you have the little rocks in the soil, but the further down you go, you're going to find a solid flat ground, and that's going to be your bedrock. So let's break it down a little bit. So we have the topsoil. That's the upper layer of the soil. You can see my little arrow pointing to it. It contains the most nutrients. So this is where you're going to find that humus, those decayed plants, because on the very, very top of the surface is where those plants and animals are going to die and add those nutrients to the soil. That's where like dead leaves that fall in the autumn, they're going to fall down and decompose and put the nutrients that they had back into the ground for more things to grow. Then we have the subsoil. Subsoil is the layer underneath the topsoil. You can see my little arrow pointing to it. It's not as good for growing plants. If you're going to try to grow a plant, you're not going to want to dig down too deep because it's not going to have access to the nutrients that are up on the top. Then we have the large pieces of rock. So this is the third layer. There's no humus here. So you're not going to have those nutrients down this deep into the ground. And no plants and animal lives in this area, in this layer. Here in the subsoil, if we go back one, you're going to find some animals living down here. So animals that burrow down, maybe a worm or a mole, they might dig down into this area. So you might still find some humus and you might still find some nutrients there. But when the large pieces of rock, you're not going to find animals living down that deep. So they're not going to have any life there, any nutrients there. Then at the very bottom, that's the bedrock. This is the bottom layer of soil, and it is made of solid rock. There's not a lot of soil there, just rock. And rocks are parts of soil, but this one is just solid rock. It's not the little pieces that you would find in the large bedrock. So I want to show you, let's see, right here. So this is a little picture that I have of that shows the of soil, shows the different layers of soil. So we have the topsoil up here at the top. You can see the tree, it's growing. These are its roots growing into the topsoil. It's got all that humus in there, all those nutrients. Then you have the subsoil underneath it. After the subsoil, you have those large pieces of rock. And at the very bottom, you have your bedrock. Now your job is to read your book pages, and then you are going to create a picture showing the different layers of soil. Now I have attached this picture onto Google Classroom so that you can click on it to see my example, but you are going to create your own. Now I want you to be creative here. You can use crayons, you can draw it, you can use construction paper. This has construction paper, but it also has marker used to color it. So I want you to create these different layers, but don't just leave me hanging here and just draw the picture. I want to know what you drew and know that you know the different layers. So write your labels here: topsoil, subsoil, large pieces of rock, and bedrock. And then you can take a picture of it and attach it so that I can see your artwork. Thanks, guys. Can't wait for the next video.